Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio with your host, K. William Spencer. This program is geared to help you see what thoughts and or beliefs are holding you back from being your best for yourself and those around you. Your life is only as good as your thoughts. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Now, here's your host. Hello and welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. I am, as always, your host, K. William Spencer. Today, my guest is David Hammond. David Hammond's very, very nice guy, loves to talk, just make him sound like he's a talkathon, but he loves to converse, I'll put it that way, and he has his own message to give. But let me tell you a little bit something about David. He is the owner and CEO of Hammond Ink Advisors. I'm going to let him explain to you what I-N-K, Ink, means there, but let me tell you a little bit more. At Hammond Ink Advisors, we measure success by how we exceed client expectations. Period. Simply stated, we help clients define and deploy solutions to business challenges. He's very passionate about helping businesses reach their full potential, visualize paths and strategies for getting there, and mentoring next generation leaders in the process. Before he became the owner and CEO of Hammond Ink Advisors, he was working for Mercer Investment Consulting. He had Hammond Associates, institutional consultants. He acquired it from Mercer and Elite Consulting? Okay. I've gone as far as I can go with that. So, David, why don't you start by telling us what is the ink in Hammond? Because, as you said, many people have wondered if you were in the printing business.
That's exactly right. Hey, Kirk, thanks for having me on today.
It's my pleasure.
That's right. Hammond Ink Advisors really is a marketing communications business strategy firm. And so what we do is we just try to help clients, whether they're in the financial arena or whether they're in the marketing business or sales or whatever it is, to define and deploy solutions to business challenges. You know, a lot of clients actually have a plan and they have a strategy, but what they lack is execution. And sometimes, you know, you get kind of stuck in the forest and you can't see the trees. So
yes.
That's
go ahead.
one of the advantages of being able to bring in a third-party advisor or consultant. It's funny, a lot of people think, wow, you're in the tattoo business. And it's like, no, we're not in the tattoo business, and we're not in the printing business. Ink basically just stands for writing. We do a lot of business strategy writing, marketing messages, branding, marketing strategy, things of that nature, and so that's what the ink represents. But that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. Now, as you mentioned, I worked at a lot of different places over the last 30 or so years. And just started Hammond Ink about 2.5 years ago after being relieved of duty during our wonderful, the Great Recession. Okay?
Yeah.
So the last firm I was with was acquired by Mercer, which was a big, large consulting company in the institutional space, institutional financial consulting. We managed about $60 billion of assets for colleges and universities and whatnot. And Mercer acquired us. And then after a short season, right, to help with that transition, you know what I'm talking about? We need to keep everybody on for that smooth transition.
Yeah.
That transition came a little bit ahead of schedule, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so some of us smooth operators that were helping with that smooth transition were relieved of duty a little bit ahead of schedule. And so I ventured back to home base, which was Colorado for us, which is where I'm talking to you from, northern Colorado actually, and started Hammond Ink, and that's what we do. But it's kind of interesting in the process. it was one of those things, you spend 30 years in the business, and then, you kind of, at the ripe old age of 50 plus, you find
Yeah, I
yourself
know the
market
feeling.
again, and that can be a pickle. You kind of go, wow, I know how to write, I know how to do resumes, but doggone it, nobody wants an old man.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I spent, so that happened, I guess, around 2011, without boring you with a resume bio. But the bottom line was I came back here and I said, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because quite frankly, I'm not sure anymore.
I'm laughing because I say that quite often myself. What do you want to be when you grow up, Kirk? I don't know. When do I grow up?
Yeah, do I have to grow up?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a requirement? But yeah, so I sat down and started thinking about, what's the purpose? I mean, at the end of the day, what are we all doing here? And I know that you guys talk about that a lot on your show, from thoughts, and how do you find yourself, and not only find yourself, but what is our purpose in life, right? Is it to help other people? Is it to just gain more for ourselves and not share? And I think the reason you and I hit it off so well the first time we spoke is you and I are both on the same page about, really it should be about trying to help others, right?
Yes.
And to be willing to stand up for things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. The other day, I gave a message to a church. I was asked to be a guest speaker the other day, and so this past weekend, and I'm not a preacher, right? But this past weekend, I had to give a message to 3 different services, so like 1,500 people, right?
Wow.
And talk about nervous. Of course, I think I told you this a couple weeks ago when we chatted that, I didn't know whether to use a manuscript or a script or memorize it, and you said you should use note cards. Well, I took your advice, and I rambled for a long time.
There you go.
But the message that I shared was really about finding courage, and not just a little bit, but a lot of it. It's not. Sometimes in life, when you're out of work and unemployed and all this other stuff, or you're just going through a rough patch, right? We need courage, but most of us just go, well, I'll take a cup of courage, just fill her up to the rim, right?
Yeah.
And some people go, no, I actually need a pint of courage, or 3 liters because I'm going to do a 14er. I need a lot of courage. Yeah. But my message was really about, finding courage that has no measure. And where do you find that? Because, in today's fast-paced environment, with 20-some-odd million people still out of work, overqualified, underqualified, whatever, I mean, just out of work with the economy the way it is, you've got to have an awful lot of courage to keep on and keep up the fight. So anyway, make a long story short, when I moved back here after that transition period, I sat down and started going, I want to tell my kids, kind of like what I did for 30 years so that maybe they'll appreciate what my wife and I did over the 30 years of raising them and how we made decisions and whatnot. And so I wrote a book, which is one of the things I think that tipped you on to me, which was a book about valor. It's called Legacies of Valor, Traits of Character, and it's really designed to, when I was trying to figure out what to do, you look at shining examples, right? You look for people that have, success in their life that are worthy of emulating or being considered a mentor. And for me, I turned to the Bible, all right? And I know that we're not going to go into a deep dive of belief here.
No, it's okay. Everybody's got a belief system, and it's. I guess you'd say it's your foundation. So, if it's your foundation, isn't that a problem there? I don't have a problem there. Go for
Yeah,
it.
and everybody's got a place that they seek that. And so for me, it was kind of going back to the basics and try to find, is there anything I can learn? after
Mm-hmm.
after 40 some odd years of going to the church, right? And I use that term rather loosely,
Uh-huh.
because a lot of people affiliate, church with religion, to rules, to regulations, to, this
Yeah.
doesn't work for me.
Conformity.
To I'd rather go spend time with my source on a mountain or on a stream or in a river or something like that, and I'm right there with you.
Uh-huh.
But I did look into the Bible trying to find out, all these cats that were, supposedly people that we could look to and figure out how did they gain victory, in whatever it is that they were going through. What lessons can we learn from them? I noticed that most of those heroic Bible characters, right,
Uh-huh.
like David and Noah and Joshua and Moses, all those cats, what was really cool about it was not their victories as much as how they actually journeyed, through the valley,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was how they got through all the tough spots. And what I learned is that those character traits that were summoned, from these are character traits, by the way, Kirk, that we just don't see on television, right?
No, we
like
don't.
Honesty, integrity.
Not even with Charlton Heston.
Right. So I really focused on trying to put out a book that would encourage the 23 million people that were out of work and all the battle-weary faithful to not lose hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to re-engage. But if you're going to re-engage, let's stand for something. Let's stand for something that, that's honorable and in integrity and that people can actually, look up to, and try to put out some character traits that were worthy of actually emulating. I mean, you think about our youth today. I mean, I know they don't watch the news because they're too busy with MTV and Facebook and everything else, but at the end of the day, these are the guys and gals that are going to lead this nation going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't find out or learn about courage and honor and integrity and honesty and taking the high road and all those things that our parents used to teach us,
Yeah.
they won't see it on TV. They certainly won't see it in news. So this book was intended to kind of encourage people to rethink where those character traits come from and why we should try to emulate those folks and make a difference. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to make a stand for anything, you're going to need lots of courage and a good foundation as to where you go to get your strength, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I've been doing. I've kind of been spending the last 2 years. Yes, I've got this business, but for the most part, I'm trying to reinvent myself.
Well, let me ask you a question. Isn't that what life is all about?
Yes, it is.
What I good for asking a yes or no question? I'm sorry.
It's a great question. As a matter of fact, I was telling some folks the other day at this service that I was at this service that I was holding is that most of us wait to tell our story or a testimony or to give a story, right? It's just like the movies, right? If it has a good ending, everybody kind of goes, ooh, yeah. I mean, that's what the trailers are all about, right? They give you enough information to go, wow, drama, excitement. I'll bet he's victorious. I'm going to watch this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so most folks wait to tell their story or to share their story when they can go, oh, look what I did. Look what I did and how I got there. Aren't you proud of me? And, at the end of the day, I realized that my story is actually still being written.
Yep.
Right? I'm not at a place where I can put a period. Right? I've been, starting my own business for the last couple of years. Some people would call that entrepreneurship. Other people call that unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Others call that you're over the hill, pal. You're unemployable. But I just call it a journey. So I'm with you. I'm at this place where, I can't place a period there. And you know what? I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay with a semicolon or a comma, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Because it just means that I'm still in the game. Right?
Exactly. That was the reason for my question. It's just a point of too many people I've heard in my lifetime, and since we're around the same age, give or take, we're 50 plus. We've seen a lot of stuff in life, and people always think of life as just you accomplished, you're there. So now, what are you going to do until you retire? Work. What are you going to do when you retire? I don't know yet. Okay?
Right.
And especially if you ask that question these days is, I don't know how much money I'm going to have when I retire, the way this economy is going. So, my idea of moving to Florida or moving down to Brazil or Chile or someplace like that, someplace else in the world, I don't know if I'm going to have the money to do that. So, I don't know. But if you stop to learn and listen, just like what you're saying, matter of fact, your example is perfect, is what am I going to do? But, hey, my story has not ended. As you said, it can be a comma, it can be a semicolon, a colon. It's not a period, though. You can do anything else but the period until you're dead. And somebody else puts the period there.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
There was a story, actually, a movie. I'm going to ask you actually two questions here. There was a movie that I saw. I was just kind of flipping around YouTube this past weekend and came across this movie called The Sinking of Japan. It was produced in 2006, and it was actually a movie from a Japanese book that some Japanese author had written about how Japan is sinking into the Mid-Atlantic Rift. And it seems to be fairly factual about its origins and whatnot, and how the tsunamis and earthquakes and all the rest of that was going on. It was just kind of weird because Fukushima in the story was the one city that did not have any real activity going on with earthquakes and tsunamis. And Tokyo and Hiroshima and a bunch of other cities, they had all these problems. And I just thought it was kind of ironic that it actually worked the same way he described it, except for in reverse, because Fukushima got it, but the other cities didn't, at least not as much. But it was it's almost a typical Hollywood story. It's done in Japanese with American subtitles or English subtitles, and it was going along pretty good. But of course, to close a movie, you have to come up with some sort of an ending. Very few movies actually leave you hanging, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So it was a wonderful story. The graphics, the movie, the CGI, and all the rest of that, it looked so realistic. It just kind of took you right there. But the puzzling end of that is just, of course, in any of these movies, is that we come up with an ending for the movie, and it's all fine and good, but it leaves you with that, okay, everything's going to be okay kind of feeling, especially in that kind of a story. Well, life is pretty much like this kind of a story. We go through our ups, our downs. We build, something destroys it, and we build over again, or we move and we do something else someplace else. It's like you and I, we're both over our 50s. You got your honorable discharge from your last company that you're working for, not with. And you started your own, taking your own natural abilities and things that you enjoy, and you made a company out of it. So now you're still working, and you're gainfully employed doing something that you enjoy doing, which is the whole idea, even if nothing else, in the show is, do what you enjoy doing. Don't get up every Monday morning and just go, oh my God, I gotta go to the job again, which is just over broke. So, go for your own dreams. But let's go to my next actual, is more of a question than anything else. There's an article that came out, I think it was yesterday, and I'll have to look it up, and maybe I'll find it after our break or during our break, where it came from Salon. I think it's a newspaper, but I read it through the internet, so I don't actually get the paper. I save on trees and whatnot. So, anyhow, it came through Salon, and they were talking about large corporations. I think it was Salon. Maybe it was another one. But at any rate, they were talking about large corporations and how they can actually sink nations now because they're buying up so much stuff, and we have become so reliant on large corporations. I don't know how many people know how large McDonald's Corporation is, how big Walmart is. Walmart employs, I believe the article says, 1,400,000 people. They drive prices down so much that they're driving prices down below production costs. So people or the corporations are saying, we'll sell it to you below below production costs, but they have to gain it back somehow, so they keep paying people minimum wage, which maybe you didn't understand that, not in you talking about you, David, but the listeners, maybe you didn't understand that's why they keep minimum wage going, because they keep taking cost down, so somebody's got to pay for the cost. So the employees pay for it. But one of the things, the closing paragraph in that article is talking about, it used the example of a star that starts going supernova. It gets so big it starts eating up everything around it, including light. And then it expands and it implodes upon itself, and it takes everything that's around it with it. Is there something that you can do in your business to help, as you're saying about with your book? I think it all falls into line. Is there something, it's not meant to put you on the spot, but is there something that you can think of, you can say, or something you can do, whatever comes to your mind, that can say, hey, we need to stop feeding these great big organizations before they implode upon themselves and take us down with them?
You know what? If I had the answer to that question, buddy, I'd be doing pretty doggone well. I think that's a great question. Whether it's corporations, let me answer it this way. Whether it's corporations growing out of control, some would say point and blame the Wall Street folks. Some would, point out the Walmarts of the world closing down the Main Street, mom and pop shops. But, or whether it's the government, right? Because the government can fit into that same definition of overconsumption and being too big and just consuming everything and wanting to manage and run everything. And at the end of the day, when you look at that and you go, how do I fix that as an individual? What can I possibly do? My vote apparently didn't do much, or it did. And, depending on, where you stand on that front. But, even the folks that, found that the way they voted is who they got, they're now scratching their head going, well, wait a minute, all those things that I thought I was going to get, and that transparency and all the things that we were, supposedly going to enjoy, is now not actually happening. So, not to slam the administration, but, at some point, we all reach a place where we go, wow, I don't think it's working out the way I thought, or the way they pitched it, whether it's government or business. Yeah. So here's the real trick, right? The trick is, individually, we can't really make an impact. We can try individually, but it's really hard to make an impact by yourself. But what we need to remember is the government works for us. And the employees of all these big companies, eventually, they're the boss. Now, they may not have board rights, right? They may not be calling the shots, but we can vote at work with our feet, right? And we can vote by rallying enough people that agree with our position that, doggone it, I don't know if it's really right to treat employees this way. I don't know if it's right to, you have to have, at the end of the day, if you want to make a difference, in my opinion, this is my humble opinion, you've got to be able to define between what's right and what's wrong, okay? Not to make it so polarly simple, but you have to be able to decide ethically, morally, whatever, your position in life. And when you find it, then you want to find folks that kind of are in agreement with you. Because in numbers, as we all know throughout history, in numbers is where change occurs, right?
Yes.
And so, if we want to change things in the corporate world, you can't be afraid to speak up. I can remember a funny time, I don't know, some people might not think this is all that funny, but I remember working at an outfit, and I was brought in as an executive, whatever, and eventually earned a spot on the executive board and executive committee. So there were 7 of us, and I'm telling you, for whatever reason, we just were the most dysfunctional group of people. For being the leaders of the company, this was one dysfunctional group, right? And I'm telling you, it'd make a dysfunctional family, almost humorous. But here I was, the youngest guy on the group, and the only one that was going, this is really weird. I don't understand why we can't get one group to work with another group, and the finance group needs a report to the chairman or to the board, and everybody wants to keep their stuff to themselves. And geez, when are we just going to start working together as a team, right? I mean, there's like 200 and some odd people expecting us to lead with integrity, making decisions, and quit, holding information back from each other. Anyway, one day, after several months of attending this thing on a weekly basis, just scratching my head and biting my tongue, I decided, doggone it, if somebody doesn't speak up, I really don't even want to be part of this executive board anymore, because it's 3 hours of counseling. So I said, you know what, guys, I think we have a problem. Everybody went, oh, okay, what is it, Dave? I said, we're the biggest bunch of dysfunctional people I've ever met in my life, and I've worked at some pretty doggone big companies. And I knew that right when I said that, I was running the risk of either being terminated on the spot or just beat up, or maybe they wouldn't let me have my sandwich, that the secretary had ordered, or maybe I'd be, promoted. Well, turns out the CEO and the chairman actually agreed, and so he fired us. He fired the board from the board. How silly is that? Right? Now, we all kept our jobs, right? But we basically decided to, we're going to shut down this executive board because you guys can't play well together. Dave's absolutely right. And that really actually made the job harder, because now we all had to go into knock on Bob's office, and Bob had to come knock on my office, and we had to kind of work it out, all our deliverables and stuff, one-on-one. And so we quit trying to do it as a group. Looking back, I guess I could say that actually it worked, because for several months we had to do it, piecemeal, eating face-to-face with whoever you needed information from. And eventually we all started meeting again as a team. But when we came back together as a team, we were a much stronger team, and we weren't dysfunctional. But I'm telling you, when I stuck my neck out on that deal, I had no idea what the results were going to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, so you kind of have to, it's kind of like what's going on in politics right now in the government. We've got folks that are trying to stand up and say, hey, you know what? This is happening over here. And I just thought somebody ought to know, because I don't feel right about it anymore.
Yeah.
And I've been part of the problem, or part of the group that's, the problem. Yeah. And so you come up with them, and if it's funny, if they have something that most people agree with, or that, like listening to my messages or reading my email or whatever it is, then we all go, well, thank you, Mr. Whistleblower. We're really glad you brought this to our attention.
Yep.
Right? And then the more of those guys and gals that show up, then it becomes a news story, and maybe something actually starts to happen. Right?
Yep.
But if the challenge is sometimes if you stand up like this Snowden guy, not to get into politics, but here's this Snowden guy who's whatever over in Hong Kong or somewhere, and he exposed a few things, told some stories that now I'd like to know how accurate they are. But instead of being an honorable whistleblower guy, he's a traitor. Yeah. Right? Because he kind of went real far. He really went for he swung for the fence. You know what I'm saying? And I think by removing himself from the public, by picking a different place to live for a season, kind of exposed him a bit to open him up to be labeled differently than labeled as a traitor or versus a whistleblower. Yeah. But either way, we need people like that. Not only him, but these other folks that'll actually stand up to corporations and to our government, quite frankly, and stand for something. I mean, at the very core, right? We need to be able to do that in our homes.
Yeah.
Now my kids are older, right? I mean, they're young adults, but they're the ones that are going to drive the bus for the rest of us old folks for quite a while.
Yeah.
So if we don't get those guys to understand how to make decisions and what to believe in and what's the difference between honesty and dishonesty, trust and lying. And what's right for the greater good, right? In other words, standing up for, finding the courage really to stand up for something greater than themselves, for the sole benefit of somebody else.
Yeah.
That to me is the goal.
Yeah. Right? David, I want to stop you for a moment. We're going to take that commercial break, and we'll be right back. I think we're going to continue that for a little bit, and then we'll get into that slingshot effect with David, and he can tell us about that time in his life where he was just going, okay, I'm pedaling along, and I don't like it here. Let me move on to something different, and how he did that transition. So stay with us. We'll be right back with David Hammond.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com, and you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria.
Hi, this is K. William Spencer of Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Join us every Tuesday and Thursday for enlightening, humorous, and intriguing conversations that I have with my co-host or our guest, all to help you look at life and your choices differently. For more information, go to www.ytyrradio.tk, or if you prefer, www.ytyrradio.wordpress.com. Hi, and welcome back. We're here with David Hammond of Hammond Ink Advisors. That's I-N-K, not I-N-C. Ink Advisors. And we were talking about, just before the break, a little bit about how the world has gone into major corporations, big government, and everything is just big, big, big. It's what David and I, because of our age, we grew up with everybody talking about bigger is better, and we're finding that bigger is not better. And even while we were on break, David and I were talking about, he even saw a show just recently on television. It didn't ask where he got it from, History Channel, Discovery, whatever. But he was talking about, he saw a show where they were talking about stars going supernova, where they get so big they eat up everything around them, and they eventually collapse upon themselves, taking everything around them down with them. So we're going to continue with that thought for a little bit, and then we'll do that snap back in time slingshot, and David will tell us about some point in his life where he was doing something and went, enough, I've got to change, and that transition. So David, what did you think about, you were saying that you had come up with something in relationship to that article and the supernova effect.
I wouldn't want to be in that capsule.
Yeah, no. No.
It's, the whole supernova thing, getting, swallowing up everything in its path, is exactly, I think there's a lot of truth there. I think we have learned that bigger is not necessarily better. And as a matter of fact, I think as the article went on to say, is that we don't deserve bigger. We don't need bigger. What we deserve is better. Yes. I think that was the closing line, something like that.
Exactly.
And in this article. And, but if we don't stand up individually and collectively and demand better, we'll never get better. That's my opinion. That's my position in life. So, whether you're talking about some role that you serve at work, or at the corporation, at work, if you're minimum wage and kind of, far removed from the management structure, the best you can hope for is just to try to treat other people right, Yeah. And I've had kids. We've all had kids at some point, and these kids will tell you, well, they did it to me, Daddy. So, fair is only fair. And it's like, you know what? If that's the way you want to play it, I guess so. But the idea is try and set a different example. Try and give them something to, whoever it is, to live up to, right? Yeah. And then if you're in a position of authority or in management or something, then maybe you can take some of the opinions, thoughts, ideas of staff and promote those on up to the corporation, right? That will make the place a better place to work, better place to interact, and all the things better. In other words, try to pursue things that make things better. Now, when you get to that big corporate thing and the government thing, it's kind of like, I look at it this way: the government is the supernova on the other side of the supernova. Mm-hmm. Right? It is so huge that you don't even really know where to start. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how many scandals do we have going on right now. Some are probably not worth giving any time or consideration to, but apparently the ones that are on the table now seem to be pretty significant, because it drastically is affecting the individual rights and freedoms of everyone, right? Yeah. Regardless of where you are. A lot of folks are concerned, well, I'm just this small little space capsule that does Facebook, LinkedIn, and emails and telephone calls, and I'm afraid the government's listening. And you go, really? You think they care if you're going to go pick up milk on the way home? You think they care, if you're going to go to the soccer game tonight or not? Now, the people that probably should be more concerned are those guys that are doing some deep stories that maybe the government doesn't want out, right? Mm-hmm. Or things of that nature. So, I think we need to keep some of this stuff in perspective, because when you get too outside of yourself, the supernova does, consume you. Yep. And if you're not careful, right, it's just like anything else. If you're not careful, the task ahead, or the journey ahead, is just too it's just too big that people don't even know where to start, right? Like the other day, I did the day before Father's Day, actually, I did something really stupid. Your listeners might appreciate this, especially if they're from Colorado or know anything about Colorado. Out here we have 54 what we call 14ers. So these are mountains that are 14,000 feet or higher, right? And so these people that are all healthy and stuff like that, which I'm not one of those, but the quest in life is, I want to climb a 14er. Well, climbing doesn't necessarily mean crampons and climbing gear and, grow a beard and have a really cool pack and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't need an ice pick, and National Geographic will not be hovering above you as you start hiking. But, for most of us, a 14er is just a hike. But, they can be easy to moderate to difficult, technical, right?
Yep.
But a lot of people just do some of the easy ones. Well, anyway, I'd always dreamed of doing a 14er. Don't ask me why, right? It's like a rock climber says, I climb Mount Everest because it's there.
Yeah.
Really? I sit on the beach. You know why? Because
it's there.
Because the water's there. It doesn't mean I'm going to go swim with the shark, you moron. But I like to go to the Grand Canyon, but that doesn't mean I want to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I did this 14er with a friend of mine. And when I started out, I thought, wow, this is going to be fun. Nice little hikey poo, up through the tree line and, then up, above Alpine. And boy, look at the vistas I'm going to get. And we may even see some mountain goats. And wow, how much. And I'm telling you what, after about, this is a 3,400 elevation gain. So after about 1,000 feet, so now we're at 13 some odd thousand. This wasn't fun anymore.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was dying for breath. My pack was too heavy, and I didn't want to go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy I was with, was going, "Come on, we got to do this." And I'm going, "Really? Why?" He says, "Well, what else are you going to do the rest of the day? It's going to take you 4 hours to get down, so you might as well get to the top." Well, anyway, I think we were passed by about 150 people, right? These are the young people.
Yeah.
They got a pack on their back, and that's it. Maybe a fanny pack with a sandwich. Mm-hmm. I've got a pack. My pack was so full I could have spent the night on the mountain for a month. But, it was my first 14er, so what did I know, right? Uh-huh. I thought I was more than prepared, and turns out I was over-prepared. But it took 12 hours, but I made it. I made it to the top. But it was like going back to this, governmental challenge or the supernova challenge. It gets to a point where it looks so overwhelming, so insurmountable, right? Sometimes life looks that way that, you have to break it into pieces and just do one step at a time.
Yep.
Right? And I finally resolved to myself that, you know what, I'm going to get to this mountain that we did was 14,265 feet. And the last time I saw my partner, because he got tired of waiting on me every 5 minutes, he finally got up ahead of me. And I knew that the last time I talked to him, we checked the GPS, and I was like, 13.8. So I figured I'm going to go another 200 feet, and I'm going to sit there and have my lunch, and that's it. I'm done. Because I do have to get down this mountain. And so I thought I was at about 14. I could see the summit. It was a snowfield away, and I had to climb up this snowfield to get to the very top. And I tell you, I was tapped. I didn't have anything left. I sat there and I had my lunch, and I said, you know what, I can't come this far and not finish. So I dropped my pack. I just left it there. And I just started walking one step at a time. And I think, sometimes in life, that's just kind of where we have to go, is that there's so much we want to either change or do to make a difference in this world, whether it's in our family, whether it's at work, whether it's in the big corporation of things, whether it's trying to change our nation, try to get them back on track, whatever it is. It just seems so insurmountable. But you know what? It all starts with one person.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It kind of like the story of Noah. I mean, he was the only crazy guy at the time, apparently, that was listening to God and decided to build this big ark. And it took him all his life. And people made fun of him all day long going, a flood? What's that? Right? But he was crazy enough to stick with the program. And now we're all thankful that he did, because that's where it all came from, because everything was wiped out except for what was on that boat.
Yeah.
So
you got me laughing because you reminded me of Bill Cosby back in the 60s when he was making jokes about that. And one joke, he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm building an ark." "What's an ark?" He says, I can't tell you. He says, can you give me a hint? He says, you want a hint? Yeah. What's the hint? He says, how long can you tread water?
Yeah, baby. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I don't know. It's just my memory flies back all over the place. But if I can just draw this to a close, because we do want to give you time to tell us about your transition. We're only running about 15 minutes into that one. So the one thing that you keep putting up, and I'm just going to cap it with my own thoughts, because I think you covered it very well, was if you think, anybody thinks that you cannot make a difference in the world, if you think, oh, I'm just a busboy at the restaurant, or I'm just a factory worker in a multi-million people factory or corporation, you can make a difference. If you just even think about even when you were in high school or in school, whatever you went through, and you saw another student actually shake up the whole school administration. I used to do that when I was a kid. I was one of the people that did it, not always, but yeah, every now and then I shook them up. And it's usually with questions. It's not by standing there and beating your chest and going, you need to do this. My best way I learned from my life is to ask questions, get people to think, because when they think, it's like, oh, he might have a point here. Let me take a look at it. But if nothing else, this is one example that I give, and David, if you want to expound on this, knock yourself out, have a good time with it. Just remember, you cannot see a virus with your naked eye, but if you catch one in your body, it will wreak havoc with you.
Well, that's true. I'm not a doctor, and I have not played one on TV either, but I'm pretty much sure you're right about that.
Yeah, you catch the flu virus, man, you're out for a week.
Yeah.
So it's just a little thought, because people think that I'm too small, I'm too insignificant. You're neither. You are big enough, you are significant, and if you're only as big as a virus, you can make a difference. Because a virus sure as the heck did.
Yeah. I'll add to that. I won't go down the viral path because you've already exposed that. But I can remember, you talk about Bill Cosby. I remember my granddad. My granddad was an old fisherman down in Panama City Beach, Florida. He fished all his life, and he had a big fleet. I mean, it was kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Down in Panama City, it was the Rathfields and the Cooks, right?
Uh-huh.
And so he was a Rathfield, and he had a boatload of boats, and they went out and did commercial fishing, and you name it. But at about 40 or 45, he decided to not be a fisherman anymore, and he gave his life over to God or something like that, and became a preacher, right? A self-induced, self-proclaimed preacher, right? So he didn't go to seminary, didn't do all this stuff, and he told me once. He said, because I was asking him questions about, what's the role of a preacher? Or why would you do that? And, boy, how are you going to change the world? It was kind of all those conversations, right?
Yeah.
And he once said, and I wrote it down in the inside of my Bible, he says, all you can do is have an effect on the people who cross your path.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all you can do is you can't share with the whole world, whether it's your views, whether it's your opinions, whether it's your marketing strategy, whatever it is. You can't reach the whole world, right? But what you can do is reach the people that happen to cross your path, right? So the trick is be prepared for people to cross your path.
Yeah.
In other words, be engaged enough to where people will cross your path, and you'll have some wisdom for them, some insight, some encouragement, some whatever it is, so that they can just continue the journey, right? And I kind of think that's this whole thing. It's kind of like, how can you affect somebody like a virus, maybe, so that whatever you do in your life or whatever contribution you make, just be happy with the fact that it's a small one, But if you plant that seed in the right place, right person, right time, right whatever, they'll carry it on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that takes a lot of the heaviness of life out of the equation, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can just be happy with 3 people you met at the barbershop and at the grocery store, and know that you actually, maybe encouraged one of them and didn't tick the other one off, and maybe even paid for somebody's, groceries while you were in line, so you made an impact in their life. Or have you ever been in a grocery line? And I think there's actually a commercial about this, where somebody's buying all this stuff and they just can't afford that last item, right? It's or hey, that's not on sale. Well, then I don't want it, right? If you've ever been in a situation like that, you just kind of pick up that item for them. You just put it in your stuff and then you hand it to them.
Yeah.
Right. People never forget that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's so small and insignificant. It doesn't change politics and it doesn't change the Nova effect, but it certainly does impact their life.
Yeah.
In a huge way, because somebody actually cared enough that didn't know him from Adam to do something.
Yeah.
I think if we just kind of march with those orders, life would be a lot better.
Yeah, it's that thing of helping somebody with what their needs are and not what you think their needs are.
Yeah.
It works very well. And like you said, it can be very insignificant to you, but it's the world to that person. I'll give one quick example. When I lived in Arizona several years ago, I was on my way to work one morning and I stopped off there's a McDonald's near the bus stop that I took. And sometimes I would go there, but usually not. And I went in there that particular morning. I don't remember all the details of why I did at that time, other than I was hungry and I think I just had the time. And I had the money, of course. And there was 2 homeless guys in there, and they were dirty, typical what you would consider to be homeless, dirty, unshaven. They were standing off to the side, and everybody's just kind of like, ooh, and people didn't want to wait on them because they thought they didn't have any money. And they weren't asking anybody for anything. They were just waiting, but nobody wanted to be bothered with them. And I finally just looked at him. I said, "What are you guys waiting for?" And he says, "Oh, nobody will help us." I said, "What do you want?" They told me what they wanted, and I got them a double order of what they wanted and gave it to them and just said, "Here you go," and just walked out. Didn't wait for any real big thanks or anything. Just, here. This is what you want. Gave it to them with a smile and wished them a great day. The smiles on their faces, they were just elated with it. But I had the money, and it didn't cost that much. I mean, morning breakfast at a McDonald's, come on, it only cost a couple of dollars. So it's just helping people with their needs instead of trying to preach at them for what you think. Yeah, you need to do this, or you need to do that, and you need to believe in this. No.
Yeah, right.
What does the person need? Then once you gave them what they need, if you have something else to say to them, maybe they'll be open to listen to you.
That's right. It's kind of like earning that right to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'll be glad to listen to you now because I got something in my stomach. Before, it's like, I don't want to hear you because my stomach is speaking louder than you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, yeah, go with the needs first and help people. We're not going to get into that slingshot effect this time, so you're definitely going to have to come back and tell us more about your life at another time.
Maybe we'll do that a bedtime story so that everybody can get to sleep.
I don't think everybody's going to go to sleep with that one, but the other thing, because we got so well into talking about how to help other people and what we're seeing and how to stand up not only for something that's affecting us, but something that affects other people. That was a conversation you and I had before the show, was how to stand up not only for yourself but for other people. And that's how we got into Snowden, and his thing was maybe the way he did it wasn't the correct way, but the point is at this point, because neither one of us or most of us are not going to be there to investigate this guy and his claims, but if he felt so moved to say, I have to stand up, no, regardless of how he did it, the point is, he did it.
Right.
Okay? And because there's always going to be somebody that's out there criticizing the guy for, oh, he did this and he did that, and the naysayers and those who put out the intentional confusion that says, oh, well, he was working for the Chinese, or he was doing this, and that's why he ended up in Hong Kong, and now that's why he wants to go to Ecuador, and anything to confuse the issue about what was he talking about and is it true?
That's right.
It's kind of like when I was in management, everybody's pointing the finger. He did it, he did it, he did it. And I would always yell back at them and go, we know who did it. We have a problem to fix. Let's fix the problem. The person's already suffered it. It was a mistake. Let's fix the problem and move on.
That's right.
But everybody keeps throwing up the smoke cloud, the intentional confusion. And that's where I have a problem with people talking about, supporting this person or downgrading another person, because you're getting all confused in the smoke and mirrors, and you're not looking at the real problem that's at hand.
Right. Right. Well, so, it's kind of like going, right back to this Snowden guy. They would rather focus on his lack of education or his past instead of his action. Mm-hmm. The action that he took was courageous, right or wrong, right or wrong as to how he did it, and how he chose to execute is up for debate. Right? We'll learn all about that later. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that's the only message that we should walk away from at this stage of the game, at least for us common folk, is that that was a courageous move. There's no gain in this thing for him. His life is now completely different and changed forever. Yeah. He doesn't have to worry about, I wonder if anybody's looking at my Facebook account or my email. Yeah, dude, for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who would sign up for that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any amount of money that could get me to sign up for something like that. So you have to go, well, then what was the reason? Well, maybe it was honorable. I don't know. Yeah. We'll find out. But, I'm certainly not going to be one of these guys that judges him in advance going, well, let's go with the party line and call him whatever he is, and, and ostracize him and distort the message that really was the only message he came forward with, was that, hey, FYI.
Yeah. Yep.
Watch
out, you're getting screwed. And you're kissing him and saying thank you to get it.
Yeah, right.
So, David, I hate to cut this short. We have so much fun when we're actually talking, or when we are actually talking. God, like there was something else we were doing. At any rate, we're definitely going to have you back. I think we'll probably even do a short with you if you got the time, and we'll get that out there maybe as the first one out, and we'll go from there. But thank you very much for being here. We'll get into your history and what got you to change to who you are as a person today at another time in a future interview. Hopefully very soon. We'll just call it part 2.
We'll just call it part 2?
Yeah, we'll call it part 2.
For those that, for those that like to read ahead and do their homework and assignments, they can check out my blog at davidchammond.com, HAMMOND.com. There they can find the book or find the CD that we put out. We did a music CD back in 2009. Had a bunch of Nashville boys and girls help me with that. But anyway, if they want to learn something more about me, that's where they can find out about me and the book and all that. But I look forward to doing a short with you. This has been a blast. I really appreciate and thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Matter of fact, what's the name of the book again?
Legacies of Valor, Traits of Character. And you can get it at Amazon and online and ebook format, pretty much anywhere. Just type in David C. Hammond, you'll find me.
Sounds good. Do you have a website other than just your blog?
Hammond Ink is just that, www.hammondink.com. Hammond, HammondInk.com. That's the business side of the equation. And then DavidCHammond.com is really the book and the blog.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that, but you kind of jumped the gun, but that's okay. You
okay.
got it in.
This is what I do.
There you go. And as we told you before, this is about you. So anyway, thanks again, David, and we'll have you on again. And thanks you.
All right, buddy. Have a great week.
You too. Everybody else, thank you for being a part of the show, and we'll see you next time around. Thank you for joining us here on Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Please make a note to join us again on our next broadcast. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Our theme music is Soul Controlled by B.O. Crew under a Creative Commons License 3.0. See our website for more information.